Welcome to the Daily Holy Story. About 300 years ago, the holy rabbi Rabbi Shalom Sharabi, better known as the Rashash, lived in Yerushalayim. At that time, a young lady who supported her household with the work of a seamstress and sewing dresses passed away, and the family was very poor. At that time, the ruler of Jerusalem was a Turkish ruler who decided to put terrible taxes on the Jewish people. Included in the taxes was what's called a burial tax. Anybody who wanted to bury the beloved in Har HaZitim, the Mount of Olives, had to pay a tax to the Turkish ruler. The family of the seamstress that was very poor could not collect the money for the tax, and her burial was delayed. When the hours passed and they couldn't get the money, they decided to make a very small funeral and try to get to the Mount of Olives without the ruler knowing. It wasn't simple. The house of the ruler was right on the road to the Mount of Olives, where the cemetery was. Hours upon hours, the Turkish ruler would sit on his patio opposite the road to the cemetery, relaxing on his chair to make sure that anybody that's going to bury their beloved would pay the tax. The ruler was in his house. The quiet steps of the funeral procession caught his ears. He right away ran to the patio, and with his eyes, he saw the small group trying to perform a funeral. He knew that small group did not pay tax, because from the morning, nobody came to pay tax. Right away, he summoned his men and told them to stop them and not allow them to do the burial. His men went and turned them back, and no matter what they did, all their begging, pleading that they don't have the money, they're poor, did not help. They chased them away, and they chased away the people that were going to bury the lady, that carried her towards her burial place. At that very time, Rabbi Shalom Sharabi, known as the Rashash, was learning in the yeshiva of the Kabbalists in Beit El, surrounded by his students. Suddenly there were knocks on the doors, and into the yeshiva came the mourners for this young lady, sad and crying, with tears down their cheeks. They told the Rashash what had happened. When they finished, the Rashash got up and turned to his students and told them, "Let us do the mitzvah of escorting the deceased to her final resting place. She was a tzaddiket, and we will give her her final honor." All of a sudden, the Avelim saw that the Rashash was going outside with them to escort them to the final resting place. If the mourners, in the beginning, wanted to do a quiet funeral, they were now being escorted by Rashash and all his students, and it was certainly nothing short of a very meaningful and large funeral. So they went down to Har HaZitim. As they got closer to the home of the Turkish ruler, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. He could not believe what he was seeing. The Jews, the nerve they had to come back and make fun of his warnings that they must pay the tax. In order to make sure he's seeing what he believed he was seeing, he got closer to the fence of the patio that was surrounded by metal poles. His anger went to his head. His eyes were looking in disbelief. It was as clear as day, and he started to get red in the face, like he never got red. He was losing his temper, and he put his head in between the metal poles of the fence around the patio. When he started to try to take his head out, he could not. The ruler became frightened. He felt like he was trapped. His head was trapped in between the bars of the metal fence. In the meantime, the funeral procession continued, and they buried the young lady in Har Ezetim. An hour passed, and the burial was concluded, and they started going back home, making small steps, waiting to see what the Turkish ruler and his men are going to do. Only the Rashash and his students stepped with ease and patience. When they got closer to the house of the ruler, the Rashash went to the house itself. His bewildered students followed him. And all of a sudden, as the Rashash knocked on the door of the ruler yelled out, "The curse of the Jewish rabbi has touched me." The members of the household of the ruler opened the door, and they looked with tremendous fear and respect at the Rashash, and they took him to the patio of the home. It was a very strange scene. The head of the ruler that used to give fear to all the people, all the citizens of the city, was trapped inside the bars of the fence without being able to get out. Surrounding him were the members of his household, yelling out hysterically. Two large Arabs went close to the fence, trying to pull the bars apart to allow his head free, but they could not do it. "Please pray for me," said the ruler to the Rashash, crying out. The Rashash told him, "You're going to have to pay for that." He told the rabbi, "Anything you want," yelled out the ruler. So the Rashash told him, "For once and for all, you have to stop the tax for burial against the Jews." All of a sudden, there was silence and quiet. You could hear a pin drop. The ruler turned red from pain and from trying to get out of the bars of the fence. Okay, he said, after a few seconds. And all of a sudden, as he was trying to move his head and to look at the Rashash, his head came out all at once. And the ruler kept his promise, and he removed the tax from the Jews, and the people were able to bury their dead once and for all in peace and tranquility. That is the holiness of Rabbi Shalom Sharabi HaRashash. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.